Hey, what's up everybody? Today we're in the beautiful Trinity Episcopal Cemetery in Galveston, and there's a lot of really old, really interesting graves, from madams to pirates. They used to bury their dead here in Galveston in the sand dunes on the beach, but every time a storm would come in, it would wash the bodies in and stuff, so they finally decided to make a series of graveyards, and they're just beautiful. And over the years, especially after the storm of 1900, they raised everything at least 9 feet. So a lot of those graves and mausoleums, you can only see the roofs of them. It's very interesting cemeteries. So as much as I want to show you a lot of the stuff in the cemeteries, there's one in particular that's just very interesting to me. So we're here today to show you the grave of Elise Alberti, her husband, sister, and children, and tell you the fascinating story behind it. Let's go check it out. This is the Alberti family plot. And as you can see, back in those days, in the late 1800s, they would bury multiple family members in one grave. But there's a very interesting story behind this one. All right, this is the husband, Louis, and this is the wife, Elise. Louis was a local butcher here in town. Now, the reason I chose to show you this grave is because the wife of Louis Alberti, her name was Elise Alberti, is the most infamous burial on the island, and all of her children and her sister are buried here with her. Now, the problems with Elise started after she lost her firstborn son, Louis, here from lockjaw when he was only 7 years old in 1884. Very shortly after that, she lost her best friend in the world, her sister, Dorothea, here, the only name that doesn't match the Alberti name. She lost her to a lung congestion. Now, the next part that really sent her over the edge, when she gave birth to her daughter Caroline in 1894, she lost her as a baby. Now completely distraught with what they think is postpartum depression today, but didn't know that at the time, she called her 4 children down to the table for a glass of wine, which I know sounds weird, but in those days it was okay in the winter to give wine to your children for warmth. So she called all the children and her husband down, and she poured her husband Louis here, she poured his wine from a different bottle. He didn't think anything of it. Ella, Elise, Dora, and Willie all drank wine that Miss Elise had poisoned. All of the children immediately started having seizures and convulsions, and Miss Elise sat there quietly watching with her hands folded on her lap. And the dad, Louis, could hear them, so he come running in to see what was going on and begged her, "Please tell me what you've done." And she told him, "I poisoned the wine." Willie was the first to die, then Dora, and then Ella, and just before midnight, the one they called Lizzie, Elise. She did poison a 5th child, but that child survived. Her name is Emma, and she was resuscitated at the hospital. And there was another daughter, a 14-year-old daughter by the name of Wilhelmina. She did not make it to the kitchen because she was doing studies in the other side of the house, so she survived as well. When asked why she did this, she said that she could not fill her obligations to her children. The children were better off. They sent Elise to an insane asylum just outside of San Antonio. Believe it or not, for only about 3.5 years, she remained there. And when she came home, although there's not a lot of record about how she committed suicide and was buried here with the children that she killed. I have never seen a murderer buried with the victims or vice versa. So I just thought that was extremely interesting, especially considering that the woman they trusted the most, their mother, the one who killed them and then was buried with them, which I just thought was horrible. If you like what you saw, please give this video a thumbs up. Please subscribe to the channel. And as always, thanks for hanging out. All right, guys, before we go, since it's almost Mardi Gras, there's one more grave I wanted to show you, and that's the grave of Elizabeth Percival. She's located here. Elizabeth married a man that turned out to be extremely violent. So she took his 2 children and left. They were her stepchildren, but she wanted to save them from his violence. So she left him, and she ended up opening a restaurant near the Strand called the English Kitchen, because she was an immigrant from England. And Mardi Gras is very popular here in Galveston. On Mardi Gras of 1881, she invited some friends out onto the balcony of her restaurant to watch the parades going by, and her husband popped up out of the crowd and shot her dead. So every year for Mardi Gras, the people of Galveston come and leave her Mardi Gras beads.